out there last night. Yes, I did. I'm Julie Doyle. I'm the vice chair of the conference. I'm up here. I want to give you just a quick announcement, and then we're going to introduce our speaker. We've got a lot of great things planned for later tonight, and Clay's going to talk about that. But before I introduce our speaker, I wanted to let you know that we, based on what we raised for the OHSHRM Foundation, I want to give you the number. So we're really excited to say that the Ohio State Council will be sending $2,340 from all of your generosity to help the Florida hurricane relief. Isn't that awesome? HR people are good people, I'm telling them. We have great hearts. So, with that, I want to introduce Heather Kinzie, our keynote speaker. I've known Heather for a while, and I'm not going to read all this fancy stuff on the bio, but I do want to tell you a couple of things about Heather. Heather was born in the South. She's lived in Alaska for many years, and I've gotten to know her through my volunteering with OHSHRM. She is a volunteer leader with OHSHRM, as well as an amazing HR professional that's been doing this for over 20 years, and she's very proud of that. She's done been on all kinds of industries, private sector, public sector, etc. And she's just got a wealth of knowledge, and I love her heart and her passion for people and for this profession. She's going to make you laugh. She's going to make you think differently. And I would love it if you would give Heather Kinzie a warm welcome as she presents Powerful Purpose.
She's lying. I'm not a very nice person at all, actually. But I fake it really well, because we're HR people, and that's what we do. So, I'm kidding. So I'm Heather. I'm from Alaska, as Julie said. I haven't always lived in Alaska. I moved there in 1983. And I like to tell this story about how I ended up in Alaska, because it grounds me a little bit, because I used to think I was really smart until I tell people the story about how I ended in Alaska, and it reminds me that I'm an idiot just like the rest of us. So it was 1983, so picture that. I was 23 years old in 1983. Just graduated from college the year before. I just recently got married and was living in Baltimore, Maryland. Anybody here from Baltimore? Yeah, no one ever wants to admit it. They're like, no, that's the armpit of the East Coast, aren't it? So anyway, well, I didn't like Baltimore, Maryland, and neither did my husband. My husband had never lived anywhere in the United States before. And so he wanted to go on an adventure and go someplace new and exciting. And I wanted to go back to Washington, the Seattle area. I had lived there for a little bit and I liked it. And he didn't think that was a very good idea because it rained a lot. And so we did rock, scissors, paper. Are you familiar with that game? Yeah. Do you make all of your major decisions with rock, scissors, paper? I'll tell you, it's the best thing in the world. Make all of your major decisions with rock, scissors, paper. You'll never resent anything ever again. So anyway, so we did rock, scissors, paper of where we're gonna, we were gonna be adventurous, or we were gonna go to Seattle, Washington, and I lost. But with an open mind, I'm like, all right, well, what are we gonna do? And he said, well, let's start at the beginning of the alphabet. And I'm like, okay. And so off we went to Alaska. And so we're driving, because that's what 23-year-olds do when they move from Baltimore, Maryland to Alaska. And so we're driving, and we're going outside of Chicago, and I'm singing at the top of my lungs, Sweet Home Alabama. That's a good song. You guys know that song? Yeah. You guys want to bust out into it right now? It's very good. I get it. So I'm singing Sweet Home Alabama, and I was like, oh my gosh! So I get on the CB, because that's what you do in 1993. You get on the CB, and I was like, pull over! And so he's like, what, did you hit a buzzer? What's going on? And I said, no, just pull over. So we pulled over, and he's about a mile behind me. He pulls over behind me. He's like, what? And I said, Alabama. A-L-A-B. What the heck, Steve? We don't know geography, obviously, and we don't know how to spell. What the hell are we doing going to Alaska? But he's like, but we already have fishing poles and knives. So off we went, because apparently they don't fish or cut up things in Alabama. So anyway, that's how I ended up in Alabama. So that's just to let you guys know that I am no smarter than anybody. Because I ended up in Alaska in 1993 because I don't know how to spell. So anyway, all right. So enough about that. I appreciate being asked back here at OHSHRM. So it's always an honor to be asked to speak anywhere, but it's especially an honor when you get asked back You know, anybody can go speak at a state one time. But to me, I hear Steve's laugh, like right here. I don't know if he's the only one laughing. He's the only one I can hear. Sometimes I stand over here, maybe I'll hear somebody else laughing. But anyway, so it's always an honor to be invited back. And so last night, I'm out and about drinking and dancing. I don't know if you saw any of that, but I'm out and about and I'm running into people because I'm not a very good dancer. And people were like, hey, I know you. You were here 2 years ago, and I have your rock. So I would just like to ask with the sign of clapping or something, who here remembers me from 2 years ago? That enough is like to make me want to cry. So who here remembers the rock? I didn't bring rocks this time because there's too many of you, and it really hurts when you throw them at me. You have a really good aim, and it hits me in the head. It's just very painful when there's this many of you. So I didn't bring rocks, but I did bring a little something for you. So I'm hoping that you enjoy it. All right. So bear with me. I got 70 minutes of your time. All right. So anytime a speaker gets asked to go anywhere, depending on who they are, they generally are either honored or terrified or flattered or worried or whatever, and I'm all of those things. I am capable of having about 500 emotions all at the same time. And so I thought, I'm like, okay, well, who else is going to be speaking? Because there's just something about myself that I like to compare myself to others. So they said, well, the guy from Ben & Jerry's, he's going to be here. He'll probably bring ice cream. And I'm like, oh, okay, no pressure. And they're like, well, and then there's the guy from Life is Good. I don't know if you know about, that little franchise, but he's going to be up here too. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, okay, no pressure. And then they said, well, and then of course, our beloved son, Steve Brown. Like, yeah, I got that, that's okay. Jennifer McClure, who I have absolutely adored for years and years and years. And so I'm thinking of that lineup, and I'm like, wow, they got a lot. They got a lot. And so I started to worry, because that's what I do. And so I was like, well, what am I going to wear? What am I going to talk about? Am I going to wear a bra? What's going to happen? News at 11. So I was just starting to worry and worry and worry. And so something came to me in my perseveration state. And I thought, Heather, all I can do, or all you can do, is just be yourself. And hopefully that's going to be enough. And hopefully that's what invited me back in the first place. And so that's what came to me. And I don't know if that quote resonates with anybody. I don't even know if anybody knows who said it first. But that guy said it first. Who's that guy?
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, that's right. Now, he is a master. He is just a master. And if you were in the chill out room, we were listening to him yesterday. Bob Dylan's greatest hits, quite possibly the best LP known to man, is, at least for me, is that one. So Bob Dylan wrote that, and or wrote that quote. And so I thought, for you, for Bob, I'd give you a little something. Okay? So I think I'm going to sing to you. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah.
Audience participation would be really good right now. Is it going to be okay that I sing to you?
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. We're going to do a little raw bass. Is that okay? That was funny. God. Later on tonight, there will totally be raw bass with me because I can sing the whole It Takes Two without anything. But no, I'm going to sing you a little song I made up myself. So I'm not a lyric miser, or a meister, just so you know. But nonetheless, I made up a little song, and I'm going to call it "Be Found in HR." Okay, but I was thinking that I could either sing it a cappella, or I could have someone accompany me. So, would you all like to have someone accompany me?
Yeah.
All right. How about another beloved son, Clay? Would you like Clay?
Yeah.
All right, Clay, come on up here, baby. So I don't know if you know this about Clay, he plays the harmonica. You guys know that? I don't know if that's a talent or not, but nonetheless he plays the harmonica. But he's not going to do that today. He does have a harmonica in his pocket. He's not happy to see you, it's just a harmonica. And he's going to play the guitar for me. Come on, baby.
Anyone?
Anyway, yeah. Anyone is your favorite? But time is ticking, honey. So come on, you don't have to be so slow about this.
Ooh.
All right.
There we go.
Be prepared to be very impressed with clay. Well, I mean, I kind of stole some of it from somebody else, if that's okay. I think you do. I think it's very easy. I think you got it. Ready? Okay. Well, hold on. What?
Is it big enough?
That's not big enough. Okay. How many hours must a man work in a day before he gets overtime? How many days can hostility exist before it crosses the line? Yes, and how many years can a place ignore the rules before it's eventually fine? The answer, my friend, can be found in HR. The answer can be found in HR. They seem to think we're done. We're totally not done. How many courses will she need to attend before her skills increase? How many times can he forget to clock in before his pay will decrease? Yes, and how many absences will it take till we know that this is family medical leave? I don't know. The answer, my friend, can be found in HR. The answer can be found in HR. Kinzie karaoke, that's what this is, folks, so feel free to sing along. How many records does an HR program need to have good analytics? How many doctors do we need to confirm that he is indeed arthritic? Yes, and how many times can we sigh and roll our eyes before we are labeled as the cynic? The answer, my friend, can be found in HR. The answer can be found in HR. Now, Bob Dylan only gave 3 verses to that song, which wasn't enough in my opinion. And I just like to see Clay's, strumming up here to me. Just so you know, I love him unconditionally and inappropriately. You need to know that. So, do you guys want a bonus round?
Yeah!
Bonus round just for OHSHRM? Oh yeah, buddy, here we go, sing along. How many hours must one spend online before he's properly connected? I don't hear you. How many committees must a board member lead before he or she is re-elected? Yes, and how many hours must a volunteer work before they're well respected? The answer, my friend, can be found in this room. The answer can be found in this room. All right. What do you guys think about that? All right. Huge round of applause for Clay. I would touch him inappropriately too, but that would be wrong. So thank you very much for helping me. If you can't have fun at this, why do it? So, thank you. Thank you very much, Clay. All right. Now get off the stage. This is my time. Oh my gosh. All right. So, I'm here to talk about purpose. You guys came to hear me talk about purpose. You did not come here to hear me sing, but I appreciate you putting up with that for a good 7 or so minutes. So we're here to talk about purpose. And in my opinion, HR's purpose is a powerful purpose. And, and I know that operations have their thing, and procurement has their thing, and IT has their thing, and, there's a role for everybody. But I'll tell you, we've heard it from Jennifer, we've heard it from Steve, you've heard it from your concurrent session speakers. HR is different. We are different in that we are a core to an organization. And when we accept that responsibility, when we accept that burden, it becomes a very powerful purpose. I believe in what I do. Julie had said that I love my career, I have a passion for my career, and I'll tell you what, there's just nothing farther or nothing more true than that, because I have chose my career in 1993. I chose to do this. I've been doing it ever since. I'm the COO of a small consulting firm now, but you can't take the HR roots out of a person. It's like me being from Oklahoma. I've only lived in Oklahoma technically about 22 months out of my entire life. I'm 47, so that's a very small fraction, just so you know. But you can't take the Oklahoma out of a girl, right? Because I was raised in Oklahoma, and I was raised in human resources, and you can't take that out. It's a powerful, powerful hold that it has on me. And if you're here at Ohio, you're either here because you love your career and you want to continue to grow your career, or you're here for the booze, or you're here to network, which is a really good reason to be here. You're here to grow yourself professionally. So I don't care necessarily about your reason. I'm honored that you're here to hear my reason. Okay? All right. So I'm going to dedicate this to my mother. That's my mother. It's her nursing graduation photo. She died when I was 21. But prior to that, for 21 years, she gave me one piece of advice. She noticed that I was a bit scattered, that I was a bit selfish, that I was a bit, I was just bitchy. So I think the moment I learned how to talk, I became quite the little wench. But she noticed that growing up, and so she's like, Heather, you need to perhaps think about why God put you on this planet. And she told me that I needed to find my purpose. And she promised me that once I realized my purpose, that the path ahead would illuminate for me. And so I tried to do that, and I struggled. I didn't know my purpose when my mom died in 1991. But eventually it came to me through some help, and so I'll tell you or bring you along with that story, okay? All right, my purpose for the next 58 minutes of this general session is to engage your mind, inspire your heart, and hopefully encourage a positive call to action. As Steve mentioned this morning, there's not necessarily learning objective takeaways from this. Don't tell that to SHRM because we had to get this pre-approved for credit. But I don't think that I can necessarily teach you anything that you don't already know. But what I can do is inspire you to remember it, right? I can tug maybe perhaps just a little bit at your heart or something within you to get you to re-energize yourself in your career, to get you to think about something that you might do differently to add value or additional purpose or satisfaction or gratification in your career. So that's what a speaker like myself is doing for you today. Okay, that's my purpose, and I will focus and I will dedicate so much of my time and energy just on that today. Okay? But if we broaden that up, if we broaden our career, if we broaden, who sent you here or why you're here, we have to kind of look at our organization, because we serve our organization. It's not the other way around. We serve them, and so we have to keep their purpose in mind as well. So I've just thrown up a 3. They're not rocket science, but any organization, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit or public sector, private sector, healthcare, manufacturing, it doesn't matter. Every organization has, at the minimum, these 3. Okay, they need to grow and maintain their business. They need to provide something to their customers or their stakeholders or their beneficiaries. And ultimately, they need to be sustainable or profitable, right? So that is the purpose of any business, okay? And we have to keep that in mind because we're serving them. We need to help them fulfill that purpose. And then we have to start thinking of ourselves as HR leaders. And I don't care where you sit on the org chart. I've never cared where we sit on the org chart. As a matter of fact, all of my supervisors would tell you that I have never cared where I sat on the org chart because I was, unfortunately, a bit precocious. But leaders have a purpose, and every one of you in this room is a leader, and I think you have to embrace and carry the burden of leadership's purpose. And so these are just 4 of my top 4. Leaders obviously have more purpose than just this, but these are my top 4. Communicate the vision. We heard that from Jennifer. We heard that from Steve. You will hear that tomorrow in your closing keynote. You heard that, I'm sure, in your opening keynote. And I am willing to bet that at least half of your concurrent speakers have talked in some way, shape, or form about the vision, and that a leader needs to communicate it, somehow articulate the alignment of people's jobs to the vision. And then, of course, either align or identify and communicate or come up with goals and objectives and activities and duties that align to the bigger organizational vision. And then I think leaders need to inspire and motivate people. To be honest, I think we kind of suck at this as HR people. I think that we like to complain about the people that are sucking the lifeblood out of us, and we don't realize that in that complaining, we heard that a little bit this morning, in that complaining, we're sucking the lifeblood out of them. So I think that we need to embrace the burden of inspiring and motivating all of the staff as if they were our own, whether we supervise them or not. Because we as HR people are very influential. We're considered leaders in our organization, and I think it's damn time we act like it. So, and then the last one is about managing change. I personally think that's why it's in my top 4, that leaders need to embrace, manage, and inspire and encourage people to work with change, because our country can't afford us not to. The economy is changing, the world is changing, our businesses are changing. We will not be sustainable and profitable, which is our organization's purpose, if we don't learn to embrace and manage innovation and change. So that is our purpose as leaders, okay? Forget about our purpose as programmatic HR people. That's coming next. Wait for it, okay? So I'll tell you about how I came to this. I chose HR by a sound of clapping hands. Who here chose human resources? So those people that did not clap, look to the people that did clap and say, what were you thinking? Kidding, I love my career, so I would never say that. So those people that did clap, and look to the people that didn't clap and say, welcome. Do it right now.
Welcome.
Okay, louder, because there were many people that didn't go, welcome, welcome. It is okay. It's kind of like any contentious election. I don't know if you have any experience with contentious elections, but when you get someone that changes their mind, that they voted for the wrong person, the people that were right, the winners, they need to say, come with us, it's okay, we welcome you. And that's kind of what I always like to do with people that didn't choose HR as their career. They fell into it. Most people, it's very like people that live in Alaska, is they fell into Alaska. They didn't know. It was like they were running from the law, and there was a lot of water, and they had to stop, and they're like, crap, there's nowhere to go. But they're still welcome. Welcome to Alaska. But anyway, so human resource is a programmatic entity within an organization. We are unique. And so I think we have our own specific purpose. I think it's a very important purpose. And I didn't come to it easily. I failed at human resources for many, many years. Very similar to the story we heard this morning. We don't come out of the womb rock stars, right? So I failed at human resources, but thankfully I had that man. His name is Joel Casto, and that was my mentor. And he was assigned to me, because I was going to implode, I'm sure. And so my commissioner at the time said, can anybody take her? There might be something there. So if you could just massage that or whatever, and can you take her? And so Joel Casto took me under his wing, and he let me know that I needed to find my purpose. And so very similar to my mom's advice many years before, Joel said, Heather, if you find HR's purpose, then perhaps you won't be so distracted and so wavering in how you try to serve. And so he started this idea of mine, and then I practiced and I disciplined myself to focus on the things that I believed were important or that I felt were very important in my organization. So I practiced all of that. I disciplined myself. I made sure that I didn't get distracted by the other little problems and squirrels that happen in the workplace, right? So you're focused, you're doing well, squirrel. You know, some initiative or some pet project of, you know, your boss or your boss's boss. They have a tendency to pull you off your journey. And so with discipline, I learned to ignore the squirrels and focus. And I made a lot of mistakes. I couldn't even tell you how many mistakes I made, where I would find I was 3/4 of the way done with a project that didn't align with my organization's purpose because somehow I had lost my way. And I'm thinking, well, crap, that was a waste of time. How did I allow myself to get so distracted and get pulled off? Because that's almost like stealing from myself and stealing from my employer when I allowed myself to get pulled off away from my organization's purpose and away from the leader's purpose. You know, so oftentimes you forget about your leader's purpose and you do things to placate another leader, and you realize, well, poop, I just shot myself in the foot. So I didn't, I lost focus. So I did have a lot of mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes. And eventually I started having a lot of successes because I maintained focus. And when you maintain focus, you're efficient and you're consistent, and the people that you're serving, and they start to depend on you, and you build your credibility. So those successes mean something. Even the itsy-bitsy ones, they mean something. And they're very powerful, those little successes, especially when you get a thank you coming from them. And so that happened. And the aggregate of all of that, my wonderful mentor, the discipline and the practice that I made, all the distractions, and when I was able to just look at the squirrel and say, aren't you cute, but I'm focused here, and the failures and the successes, all of that gave me confidence. And that's a powerful, powerful thing to have as an HR professional, because we get run down quite a bit. And I'm sure you've heard about that from all of your session speakers so far, is we are often the people that are blamed. And some of it is deserving, some of it we deserve, some of that blame, but some of it is not. But when you have this aggregate of wonderful things and you learn to focus on your purpose, you start to have confidence. And so tomorrow you'll have even more focus. Tomorrow you'll have even more efficiency. Tomorrow you'll have even more success stories because of all of that that's led up to it. Okay, and I believe in that. No one can take that away from me. And I have been projecting that onto the HR professionals that I've known ever since. And I have been very, very, very happy, not happy, although what does make me happy? I've been honored, I'm grateful, I've been very, very lucky in that I've had the opportunities to be in front of HR professionals and to share that story and to encourage them that they too can focus and get the benefits that I've received from that focus. And so these are just some of them, and I'll go through all of them. I won't read to you because adults hate to be read to. But these are just the benefits when I realized that I had the power to focus on my purpose. These are the things that came to me. My attention at work was no longer schizophrenic. And have you ever had that? That organizational schizophrenia? My gosh, it's terrible. It makes you feel like absolute garbage throughout the day. And then you go home that night and your significant other asks you, how was your day? It was crap, right? Because you had this schizophrenia that happened during the day. So I found that I could focus my attention, that my value to my employer and to those who served, and as well as myself and my family, was increased when I had heightened purpose. It obviously built my confidence and my competence. And then, of course, that enabled me to be successful. And that's really what it was about. You know, it's not a selfish thing that I need to be successful. But in order for me to be a good servant, I need to be successful. And that is my purpose as an HR person. It is to serve my organization. So I need to be successful in order for them to be successful. Okay? So those are some benefits. That's the what's in it for you. I know a lot of you, you're like, there's the exit doors, and look, these ones are open, right? I could probably make a break for it. But do you need these things in your life? And I'm going to suggest that perhaps you do. That perhaps you do need a little bit more attention, a little bit more feel good about your day. And so if so, stick with me for the next 46 minutes. Can you do it?
Yes.
All right. Woohoo! All right. So these are the 4 things. These are known in Anchorage, actually, as the Kinzie-isms. And I know that sounds a bit narcissistic that I name things after myself, but someone else named them because it's my mantra. For 15, 16 years, I have focused on our purpose. And so they're like, oh, that's the Kinzie-isms, that's the Kinzie-isms, and it's helped people, and that's what they're known as. So for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to go through all 4 of them in painstaking detail. Because that's what you need here on a Thursday afternoon. You need painstaking detail. It's like an audit. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
Audience participation is the only way I move on.
Yeah.
There we go. I think that all came from one table that's already tired of this, but that's okay. All right, so the first one is to increase or enhance communication. And so my up arrows either mean increase or enhance, okay? So I believe that HR's purpose, its first primary purpose, is to increase communication or enhance the communication of an organization. And I believe we do that in a variety of ways. I'm a firm believer in cleaning out your own closet first. And so keep that in mind. A lot of what you'll see, it's very internal. It's, self-reflect a little bit. Clean out your own closet and then go perhaps to the larger room and then go perhaps to the whole house. But clean out your own closet first. I've always practiced this. I came up with this years and years ago, but if not asked, offer. So what I mean by that is that if you feel like your intuition is telling you that someone needs something from you, it could be a supportive ear, it could be, data and information, it could be advice. But if your intuition tells you that they need something, but they didn't ask for it, offer it. And just like Jennifer said yesterday, you don't have to throw it on them, but you can ask them, do you want my advice? Would some information be helpful to you? Would it be beneficial if I gave you some of this, right? So if not asked, offer. And if not offered, ask for it. Because I think as human resources professionals, we have a tendency to say, well, they didn't tell us that, right? Or, I didn't know she was upset because she didn't tell me that. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. I think we can do better than that. I think that we have to, if something is not offered, but we need it in order to be helpful, in order to fulfill our role for the organization and for leaders to fulfill their roles, I think that we need to then ask for the information. So if not asked, offer it. If not offered, ask for it. Okay? That's the first way that I believe we can increase or enhance communication. The next thing that I think we should do is we should quit shying away from difficult or critical conversations. And I've just never quite understood the person that shies away from the truth. Because I was told that the truth will set you free. I was told by my mother, and I don't martyr her by any means. She wasn't perfect. But she was right when she told me that I could never go wrong with the truth. And that's not to say I haven't lied my way out of things, because certainly I was a little poop, of course I did. But as an adult, I strive to tell the truth. I actually gave up lying to myself for Lent. Let that sink in. Anybody that knows me knows I love hot tamales and Diet Coke. I also gave up hot tamales and Diet Coke for Lent, and I always thought for 18 years, that's the hardest thing. I gave up Diet Coke for a whole 40 days without Diet Coke, without any diet beverage whatsoever. And then this past year I gave up lying to myself. And I'm gonna tell you, it was the hardest thing I ever did. Every morning, I reminded myself not to lie, and then at noon, I would check in. And darn if I hadn't lied to myself, right? And then at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, I'd check in again, and darn it if I hadn't lied to myself again. Lying to myself was very, very easy, and so I'm trying hard as an adult not to lie to myself. But thankfully, I'm a little bit better about not lying to humans anymore, right? Not just myself, but to others. But don't shy away from difficult. Quit lying to yourself. Quit avoiding the truth, right? I believe that we should strive for transparency, not full disclosure, but transparency. I don't think we can go wrong with enough transparency. And I'm not an idiot. I know there's a line there that we don't want to cross, right? When it looks more like full disclosure and not so much like authentic transparency. But I do think we need to strive to get up to that line. Because so many of us, we find so much comfort back here, right? And there's the line, there's the full authentic transparency or the full truth way up there, and we're like, no, we're good. We're good. You know, we don't want to reach for that transparency, and I think that we need to, in order to increase communication. I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to enable or encourage two-way communication. And so many times, I think as HR professionals, we struggle here. We triangulate. You know what I mean by that? Triangulate. If you're a parent and you're not a single parent, triangulation, because your kids are fantastic at manipulating that type of thing, right? So that's not what dad said, or that's not what she said, right? And so they're really good at that triangulation, and I think as human resources professionals, that's a really easy place for us to be. It's like, well, what did Jane say? Well, then what did Steve say? And really, what we need to do is we need to say, Jane, come here. Come here, honey. It's going to be okay. Steve, now. Right? Now. So let's talk this out, right? Let's encourage two-way communication, because we've got to break this cycle of the he said, she said. As HR professionals, we're all like terrified of that he said, she said. And that's why we put extras in the room, right? Because we're afraid of this. It's like, no, let's step back and do the right thing, and instead encourage two-way discussion. You know, how's that? Two-way discussion. Why don't we just focus on that? My gosh, if everybody in this room could encourage two-way discussion, 1 or 2 two-way discussions next week, imagine how different Ohio's workplace would be. And there's a lot of people in this room, except for that one that just left, and I totally am going to shame that person later. But oh, another one just left too, darn it. Stop the flow. Get the flow. I was trying to figure out how I was going to weave that in, and it just came naturally just now. Okay. So, but yeah, I think imagine there's, what, 900 people, 1,000 people in this room? I don't know how many people. But if each one of us were to encourage discussion next week, imagine the change that would make in our organization. That's how powerful communication is, right? And we can make it two-way. Not only is it more efficient, but it actually preserves the relationship, which is my next one. I think that as HR professionals, part of the way we increase or enhance communication is we prioritize the relationship over winning. And I'm not suggesting that we want to win all the time, but I am suggesting that perhaps we allow one side or the other to win. Because maybe, I don't know, maybe we feel it's their turn. Maybe they're the squeaky wheel and we just want them to shut up, or whatever. But we preserve winning over the relationships. And so I say let's stop that today. Let's instead preserve the relationship. Forget about the win. Good communication doesn't have winners. Good communication has collaborators and compromisers, and people that appreciate the differences in each other, and people that appreciate that they don't get what they want. Right? That's what good communication creates. And so why don't we do that instead? I think that's what we should do. And the last thing for increasing communication is striving for closure over acceptance. I'm going to explain this one to you just really briefly, because this one confuses my peers, but maybe you're smarter than them, so maybe you don't need the explanation, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's scripted. So what I mean by this is, as HR professionals, we do a lot of mediation. Would you agree? Mm-hmm. Audience participation? Yeah. Thank you, yes, yeah, we all love it. Yeah, yay, that's the best part of my job. I get to go mediate.
I got 2 people not playing good in the sandbox. I have to go put my black and white striped shirt on and mediate. So I think that as HR professionals, when we don't accept our purpose and we don't prioritize increased communication, we have a tendency to say, we good here, we good here? But it's human nature when people get uncomfortable to say words like, I'm good, fine, no, it's okay, right? And they say stuff like that. And so if we don't prioritize closure over acceptance, then we're like, oh great, we're good, we're done, mark that off, 2 hours of my life, I'm never getting back, but okay, and we're done. Because we accept acceptance as good enough. And so I challenge you today to strive for true closure. Don't settle for acceptance. If acceptance is all you're going to ever get, then okay, so be it. But for the most part, and I've been doing this for a really long time, I am a trained mediator, I'm a trained facilitator, I've worked with arbitrators and judges and I've worked with union negotiations, so I know about mediation and I know about acceptance. I know when you've come to an impasse and when there is still time, when there's still room, you got a little bit of headroom for some compromise there. And I've been really, really lazy and I've stopped there at impasse, even though I've known that there's probably a little bit more, right? And so I am challenging you, just like I challenge myself, strive for true closure. Okay? So those are just some things that I think everybody in this room is capable of doing. I have always promised myself never to give rocket science formulas to anybody, but I think everybody in this room can do this. I believe it's important. Increase and enhance communication in your workplace. The next one is enhance your capacity for leadership. Not just your capacity for leadership, but your organization's capacity for leadership. I'm not talking about increase the numbers of supervisors or managers in your workforce. What I'm talking about is you, the HR professional, regardless of where you sit in the org chart, you increasing or enhancing your organization's capacity for leadership. You've got it in you. And again, I can't say it enough. It doesn't matter where you sit on the org chart. You have it in you to influence the capacity of leadership. Okay, and I believe we do that by a variety of ways. First and foremost, you can never hear it enough, we've got to lead by example. We have got to start showing our organization that if they want someone to model that good behavior, if they want someone that models productivity, or if they want someone that models change management, they need to look to us to do it. Okay, I don't want to be that HR program, the one that you're not proud of. I don't want to be that HR program that managers and employees and potential employees badmouth. I want to be that HR program that are literally, representative of the golden goose in an organization. They are the models for what's good in that organization. It starts with us, and it also ends with us. I believe, and we heard this yesterday from Jennifer, and I actually tweeted, I'm like, oh, I think that too. I think we need to mentor and coach everybody in the organization, including those that we don't like. And, and you've heard it numerous times this week, so I won't belabor it. But I will tell you, I will echo what Jennifer said. The day that I got over myself, and I reached out to the manager who hated me, because he did, and he had every right to hate me. And don't get me wrong, he was also a jerk. But nonetheless, I deserved the hatred and the resentment and the disappointment that he had for me. The day I reached over with my olive branch, and I said, you know what, I am sorry. I am sorry that I have failed you. I am sorry that my team has failed you. I am sorry that I have not taken the high road. Forgive me, let's start again. The day I did that is the day my world changed, not just with that manager, but with every other manager that saw HR, me, trying to repair a relationship with someone that it looked as if it was beyond repair. To this day, this is one of my favorite colleagues. I no longer work for that organization, but when I see him and when I talk to him and when I connect with him online, we talk about the days that he hated me, but that I chose to mentor him. He did need mentorship, and he knew I hated him, and yet there I was, right? So that can't be said enough. I think that we as HR, we need to quit enabling people. You know, there's a gentleman in the audience here, his name is Glenn Aaronwitz. He's also from Anchorage. He's my +1. I deserve one, don't you think? The +1, he's right there. He's taking my picture, which I hate, by the way. He's a professional photographer, he can't help himself. But anyway, he probably gets tired of me saying this, but I say, why are you placating? Why are you enabling? I don't believe in that. I don't believe that we make people better when we enable them. I don't enable my children. I'm sure that there are times when I've gotten lazy, and I have, but I try not to. I don't placate hardly anybody, which is why not a lot of people like me, because I don't placate a lot of people. But I think as an HR professional, we need to quit doing this as much as we do it. I don't think we should be in this profession if we're looking to be popular or if we're looking to be loved. I do think that there needs to be some likability and some respect, but I don't think that we need to placate people to get that. Okay? We're never going to enhance our organization's capacity for leadership if we continue to enable and placate the supervisors and the managers and the leads that we are helping and supporting. Okay. I believe, and you've already heard me say it, I believe that we serve an organization. I think that we need to provide support in any way we can to a supervisor. And some of you work in organizations where your support is very formalized. You know, it could be through a policy or a procedure or a written manual of some sort. That would not be La Rosa's, right? Because we clearly know they don't have those there. But that's okay, because Steve provides support in another way. And some of you work for organizations that are similar to La Rosa's, where you don't have a lot of formalized policies and procedures, but you still need to provide support. I call that a lean-to. If you're from the South, you know what a lean-to is, right? So you're a little tired, or your horse is tired, or the cow is tired. I got a yes ma'am, so I'm going to hug her later. Yeah, she's from the South. She knows what a lean-to is. But I think we need to be the lean-to of our managers and supervisors and leads. I think that a policy could be a really good lean-to, or our ears, our support, our encouragement, that could be a lean-to. Our expertise and our life experience becomes a lean-to people that haven't had that life experience, right? The information that we have about our organization's precedent, or about the law, or about, you know, even how another organization or a subculture in an organization, how that exists, that can be a lean-to. And so we need to provide that support to our leads and our supervisors and our managers, because that's how they get better. I don't think that we need to tell them what to do. And I used to love that part about HR. Matter of fact, I told you I chose the profession. So I was sitting there after college, or soon to be graduated actually, and was meeting with my advisor, like many of you have. And so I took one of those tests. Did you guys do that when you were in college? You took like a cognitive ability test, and it kind of leans you towards a career path or whatever. So I think it was like my second month in Baltimore. I had transferred from a school in Munich to Baltimore, Maryland, and it was like my second month there. I had to take one of those tests as you go into the, you know, your upper grad or your upper courses. And so there's lots of questions about being bossy. And I was like, yes, find comfort in that. I strive to do that, you know. And so there's all these things about bossiness, and lo and behold, HR was a prime career for me. And so she's like, I think that you're just primed for HR. You're just really going to be for HR. And so when I first took the HR job, I thought that we're the people that told supervisors and managers and employees what to do. It's like, no, you can't do that. No, you shouldn't do that. Yes, you can do that. You might be able to do that. You know, I thought that's what we did. And for the first couple of years, I thought, well, this is easy. This is just so easy. But then I realized very, very quickly, after many, many mistakes, that is not our job. I don't believe that's our job. Matter of fact, I tell people that look a little bit like I did 20 years ago,
I'm like, that's not your job. Come over here to the bright side, and let me tell you how easier it is when we propose, or when we suggest what a particular decision or a particular solution may offer. So the pros and the cons, or another way to say it is the risks and the comfort, right? So we get much better results, in my opinion. And again, the result is to enhance leadership. We get much better results when we suggest and propose versus tell and deny. And then the last thing for increasing and enhancing our capacities for leadership is to encourage supervisors and managers and leads, encourage them to develop themselves. And by the way, we also need to practice what we preach. I think we can't say that enough either. But as you know, in your organizations, it is often the case that once you become a supervisor, you quit developing yourself. The organization doesn't necessarily invest in you anymore, and neither do you invest in yourself. And then the Peter Principle often takes place there. And the Peter Principle is that you've risen to your highest level of incompetence. That's what the Peter Principle means. And I think we see that a lot in organizations. Like, you're really good at that, let's give you a promotion. You're really good at that, let's give you a promotion. You're really good at that, let's make you a leader. And they suck, right? Tell me I'm not right, or tell me I'm not wrong about that.
You're not wrong.
Thank you very much, audience participation. Someone has been paying attention to the one and only rule that I have. Come on, move me on. So that's what happens. See, we develop them. They're experts in their trade, yada, yada, yada. And then they get to supervisory positions, and we forget about it. Peter Principle then takes place. Okay, so I think that we need to encourage development and inspire a sense of ownership in their supervisory jobs. We heard today that we as HR professionals, we need to have ownership of our own careers. We are in human resources. Let me hear it. We are in human resources. I do not hear it. We are in human resources, and we are proud of being in human resources. This is a noble career, right? This is a very, very challenging career. It's a noble career. And you know what? You've got some guy or some girl in your organization right now who's saying, why the hell did I take this supervisory position? I hate this supervisory stuff. You've got someone on your team right now in your workforce that is unhappy and is not owning his or her leadership responsibility. Your job is to inspire them to own it. They do not have to fail at this with your help. Okay? That's how you increase ownership, or increase capacity for leadership in your organization. Your third major purpose is to increase the bottom line. When my mentor told me that years and years ago, I said, say what? No, you got it wrong. We're not a revenue generating unit. We're HR. We suck money out of the budget like nobody's business. Because that's the way we used to think back in the early 90s. And we even thought like that in the late 90s and the early 2000s, because HR professionals, we weren't trained to think about revenue generating. We weren't trained to think about cost savings. We weren't trained to think about how we add to profitability. It has just not been told to us. And so I'm telling this to you right now, we do. And good, as I said earlier, start in your own closet, go out to the room, and then go out to the organization with these ideas right here. First and foremost, think of the place, or think and act like you own this place. Right? So I don't care what type of organization you have. If you are in the public sector, then fine, act like your commissioner or your director or whatever you call your leader. If you are in a for-profit private sector, act like you own the place. If you are in non-profit private sector, act like you are the one and only recipient of that grant to serve your beneficiaries. Think and act as if you own the place, and trust me on this, you'll start pinching your pennies. You'll quit printing your drafts on color. I know there's some of you in this room. I know there are some of you in this room. And first of all, why are you still printing? Come on! It's 2017, folks. If you don't have to print, don't print. Okay? Toner is expensive.
And Xerox knows it too. You know they do. Totally, you are the sucker. They're like, oh yeah, that was that HR program. Look at how much they spend, right? I mean, they know that we're the suckers. So we need to start pinching our pennies in ways. We need to start finding wastes and reductions in our own programs. We also need to start doing things right the first time. There are too many of us who are reactive in our day, and we're allowing that to cripple our accuracy, right? Because we're rushed, or we think, and don't tell me you don't fall into this, we think we're good at multitasking. I know that you think that you're good at multitasking, and let me be the first to tell you, you aren't. You are not good at multitasking. I know you think that you are, but you're not. And when you try to multitask, this is research, by the way, I'm not just making this stuff up. I don't have the data to point it, so it must be true. Because, I don't have a slide for it. So, but research has showed that if you're multitasking, you're mentally trying to multitask more than, just sporadically throughout the day, that you are then unintentionally taking your cognitive reasoning ability down to that of a 7th grader. And so that's I don't know how you were in 7th grade, but I was not very smart. I was not a very smart person in 7th grade. And so if you are good with that, if you want to work alongside someone who has a cognitive ability of a 7th grader, then by all means, keep on multitasking. But if you're not good with that, if you want to be better, then I beg you, start doing things right the first time and quit multitasking, because it's not doing you any favors. I think that we need to increase the bottom line. We need to eliminate waste in all forms. And so that would be in inefficiencies, that would be in low quality and the acceptance of low quality, because low quality in HR ends up being negatively affecting somewhere else downstream, right? So we need to eliminate waste in all forms. We need to encourage people to eliminate waste in all forms. We need to, again, model the behavior of efficiencies and accuracies and quality improvement in our own shops. I think that we have to commit to doing our job so well that we are only enabling other people's success, as opposed to settling for, well, that's good enough, and then not caring that somebody else's success is now marginalized because of us. Because more than likely, that other person that we just marginalized their success, more than likely they were the moneymaker for the organization. Could be someone in sales, could be someone in operations, but we did not allow their success and profitability, right, increasing the bottom line, because it was good enough for us. So I think we need to commit to do our job well. I think we need to be a fierce negotiator. There are many people in this room that do recruitment. There are many people in this room that are currently dealing with HCM vendors, to automate their workforce processes and their data processes inside. There are currently people out there that are negotiating with other types of vendors to provide services. And my gosh, and you have a record number of vendors next door, and some of you are the decision makers for those vendors. We need to be a fierce negotiator. It's okay to have a budget. I encourage you to have good, rational, realistic budgets. But I also encourage you to quit leaving money on somebody else's table. Okay, that's our money. It's our organization's money. And remember, the organization's purpose is to be sustainable or profitable. So when we are haphazardly spending their money, then we are not helping them fulfill their purpose. So we've got to be fierce negotiators. And last for this is we have to strive to always learn and improve. We are not going to be effective HR professionals if we stagnate in our own development and in our own expertise. We've got to invest in ourselves, realistically and reasonably invest in ourselves, so we can improve our work, so we can do our work well, so others are enabled to succeed. That is yet another way how we, as the line item sell on the budget, because that's all we are, but that's how we increase our organization's bottom line. And then finally, our 4 purposes, we've got increased communication, increase and enhance the organization's capacity for leadership. We've got increase the bottom line, 3 arrows up, 1 arrow down. We must start to decrease risk for our organization. And by a show of hands here, clapping hands because I can't see anything right now, how many people are in employee relations? First of all, good job. Good job. Employee relations is tough. That is a tough job. And so some of you in employee relations, you are well versed on the law. Some of you are doing labor relations, and you're well versed on not only the law, but on the protocols that surround a unionized workforce. And that's where I grew up. I grew up in the law. I was very, very lucky. I got to practice administrative law without being an attorney. I mean, who gets to do that? That's fun stuff right there. Right? So that's where I come up. That's where my roots are, is in the law. And so when I realized that my job was to minimize risk for my organization, I immediately went to the law part of it. And certainly that is a huge hunk, right? So I studied the law until the law became intuitive, because I needed to have that intuition and those life experiences to help me make sound decisions and sound proposals for the managers and the members of the workforce that I was serving. So certainly that had a large part of what was important in mitigating or minimizing risk. But then I realized that it was more than that. That risk wasn't just getting sued and not getting sued, right? Risk wasn't just how much is it going to cost if we get sued, right? That was only one part of it. I started to realize that there's other parts of my job as a human resources professional that was about decreasing risk. And I realized that consistency decreases risk. Now, and I'm a firm believer in exceptions, I had 2 cookies for dessert because my lunch was light, right? That's an exception when I technically should have only had 1 cookie if I want to fit into my clothes. So I understand that there's a need for exceptions. But I don't rule by exceptions. If I ruled by exceptions with my cookie analogy, would I fit into clothes? These clothes? No, I wouldn't, right? Because I can't do that. That doesn't solve the problem. And as an HR person, we have to think about that for our policies and protocols and the various work rules that we have around, because most of us work with these types of things. Our job as an HR professional is to ensure we are consistent in the application of those rules. Our job is not to have more of them, right? I don't love rules. I don't get paid by the word, right? It's like, yay, another policy. I bet we could make at least 5 procedures just to talk about that policy. That's not who I am. But I do believe that if we have 7 rules or 70 rules, that we have to make sure there's a consistent execution of those rules. And when we allow for a lot of exceptions to that, I believe we raise our risk. And that is not our purpose. Our purpose is to minimize our risk. I also think that we as human resources professionals, we need to be aware of, or we at least need to pay attention to other things going on in our value chain. And so if you think about your value chain of all of the various pieces and parts that come together, that get aggregated by someone, or groups of people in your organization to produce and provide a product. Could be, someone in your supply chain, it could be stakeholders or beneficiaries, it could be, other people that are partnering with your organization to market that, whatever. I think we need to start paying attention to what's going on with them, because that has an effect on our reputation. And as human resources professionals, does our organization's reputation matter? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I want a heck yes on that. I want an amen yes to that. Because that is our employee value proposition, and without it, we got nothing. We got nothing if our organization does not have value or the perception of value in the community. And so with that being said, we need to broaden what we're paying attention to and look at the overall value chain and start to pay attention. Are those things consistent with what our organization stands for? Is there anything over here with that subcontractor that would affect our overall reputation? And we have to start paying attention to that. I think that we also need to, in order to minimize or decrease risk, we need to start taking a good, hard, honest look at how we behave in our workforce. And are we providing flow and enabling the work to be done, or are we providing friction? And another way to say that, it was very, very articulately communicated this morning by Mr. Steve Brown. He said, are you letting them do their work? Are you doing what is necessary so they can do their work? I believe his exact words is, are you giving them permission to do their work? Or do you have a policy that is being a barrier for them to do their work? So it's the exact same concept here. I think that we've got to take a look at what we're doing in an organization and ensuring we are providing flow, not friction. And that's how we minimize the risk. Okay? I'm not saying that we let everybody do what they want to do, because then you might have mayhem. But I do believe that we need to look to see when we are a barrier, and if it is indeed increasing the risk, even though in our smart little world we thought it was minimizing it, right? And that's why we jumped and we said no. But that's why we jumped and said you must, right? Because we thought in our own minds, without anybody else's perspective, that we were minimizing. But when we were to take a step back and look at the totality of the circumstances, reasonably, we were just being a barrier. And in doing so, we increased, not decreased. And the last thing is very similar to increase the bottom line, and that's think and act as if you own the place. So I'm a business owner, I'm a small business owner, so I've got the Strive Group. We're a full-service consulting firm in Anchorage, Alaska, and I don't want to get us sued. We're a consulting firm. We provide advice and counsel. We're not attorneys, so clearly we don't do that type of thing. But nonetheless, our advice and counsel affects or influences our clients' decision-making. And I don't want to get us sued. I own the place. So I am going to do what needs to be done to ensure we don't get sued. I used to own a yogurt shop, frozen yogurt shop. It was a hobby of mine. It was not successful, I won't lie to you. It was successful for me because I loved it so much, but it wasn't a successful business in profit standards. But I didn't want to get sued, right? I own the place. No one wants to get sued. No one can afford, both mentally or financially, to get sued, right? And so when you own the place, you have a whole different mindset on how you allow people to behave in your workforce, how you allow people to behave who are customers or beneficiaries of your product, how you allow for things to get done or you don't let things get done. You behave differently when you own the place. And if you've never owned a small business, just please trust me on that. You behave differently. So I am asking you as an HR professional is to own it. Own your organization. It's just a mindset. I'm not asking you to go out and buy all the shares, until you're a majority owner. And that's probably not reasonable to request of you. But it's a mindset. Act and behave as if you own the place, and you will find that indeed you're minimizing your risk. All right? So there you have it. You've got my mom's advice, right? I shared that. Once you know your purpose in life, the path ahead of you will illuminate. And you know the benefits of knowing your purpose. You'll be able to focus your attention. You'll be proud of the work that you do. You'll enable your own success and the perception of that success, which boosts confidence. There are some really, really valuable things you can get. What's in it for you, right? If you focus on your purpose. So I challenge you to take my mom's advice, right? Just with this one here on your left. And then, if you so choose, take mine too. Okay, I'm not as smart as my mom, not as pretty as my mom, not as tall as my mom, believe it or not. But I've been around, okay? This isn't my first rodeo. So have faith. Have faith in me. Have faith in the people that chose for me to be with you here today. And just try it out.
I gave you all sorts of little things that you can try. None of it is outside of your control. All of you, in your own way, can increase communication, can enhance your organization's capacity for leadership. You can increase your bottom line or your profitability in some way, shape, or form. And I know, regardless of where you sit and what you do, you can minimize risk in your organization. There is nothing outside of your reach here in what I've offered you today. So you got nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose and you got everything to gain, right? Your purpose, if you choose to accept it, is waiting for you the moment you get back to work, okay? I think it's a powerful one. I hope that you think it's a powerful one. I am fairly certain you are ready. And I'm also fairly certain that I'm grateful for you having me up here today. So enjoy the rest of your conference.